Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Sofia Speaks with the LEC Ask an Educator segment. Sorry for the delay, a little bit of some technical difficulties, but y'all know how it is out there in the internet world. Sometimes the Wi-Fi works for you and sometimes it don't. But listen, I'm really excited that many of you are starting to trickle in. Welcome to Ask an Educator. Sofia Speaks Special Edition. And listen, I am so excited to announce my next guest. But before I do, I typically like to share why I'm even in this space with the Latinx Education Collaborative. So we have been in cahoots for a while now, myself and the LEC, from Moroccan conferences as a former keynote speaker to a former guest on Ask an Educator, and just coming back around with other different events and just pathways for Latinx teachers to really amplify their voices. And when LAC talks about really amplifying that Latinx voice in the K through 12 space, they mean it. And not just in Kansas City, but across the country. And that's how they found me, right? And so I'm just so excited to share space. I'm just so excited to continue to dive into the world of EDU. And I am just so excited, y'all. You don't even know how excited I am to announce this next guest. Listen, I have had a few guests on, but this one really tops the cake for me, or is the icing on the cake for me, because it is none other than my mother. I am so excited to have her come on. And so we're going to add her here to the space. And so exciting. Mommy, welcome to the Ask an Educator Sofia Speaks Special Edition. How are you, Mom?
Wow, I'm doing wonderful. And I'm so excited to be here too. And I'm actually surprised, because I've heard your other podcasts and I never thought I would be one of your guests, so that's exciting.
Yes, absolutely. And what makes it exciting is that you fit the criteria, right? You're a Latina, you're in the K through 12 space, and you are nestled right where I want you, going deeper in the world of bilingual education. With each of the interviews that I do, it's nestled under a central theme. And that theme for us right now is going deeper into the world of bilingual education. And so welcome, Mommy. Oh my gosh, aquí estoy. They're going to hear all the tea, all the chisme. Friends, have the comments coming in. I'll show a few. This is my student Destiny telling us hello. We've got Tiffany, my little sister, talking about Wepa. We've got our good friend Fernanda coming in saying, whoop, whoop. Thank you guys for your patience. I had some technical difficulties, but y'all hung in there in the green room, in the backspace. Y'all are our people. We got Eunice, my sister-in-law, who is a big fan of Mommy, and she is excited for this one, she said in the comments. And then Tiff, little sis, is talking about, I'm here for it, all the tea. She got that little frog on there for those who are just listening, because Mommy is very just obsessed with the frog because it resembles the coqui from Puerto Rico. But we'll talk about her fascination with that coqui. Pero listen, we definitely want to share your story. Nathan, my little brother, talking about love you guys. Thank you for your support in the space. We love you too. We love you, love you, love you. But I'm so excited to dive in, like legit, super, super excited. So I always like to have our guests open up with just like, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from, who your people are. Tell us your, your cultural landscape. Tell the people who Aida is.
All right. So I'm Ida, and I was born in Puerto Rico, La Isla, but I came to Chicago. My mom told me that I was around a year old when I came to Chicago. I came with my mom and my siblings because my dad was already here with the rest of my siblings. I come from a family of 12. I have, there's 10 of us, and then my mom and my dad make 12. I have, I had 8 sisters. 2 of them went to be with the Lord. And I have 2 brothers. One died in a tragic accident, and the other one is moved out to Portland, Oregon, and we've lost track of him for a while now.
Hmm.
I'm also married. I have 4 children. I have 4 kids: David, Nathaniel, Sophia, and Tiffany. And I'm with my husband Rick, whom I love dearly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I do have a little blast from the past for those who are able to view, but I have a family portrait of Mami, toda la familia, con mis abuelos, Maria y Sergio, and all of your siblings. I thought that this was such a beautiful portrait and just a tribute. Look at this strong looking Puerto Rican family. I mean, honestly, I feel the ancestral vibes. Um, Man, Mami, tell us a little bit about Puerto Rico. Listen, we were just on the phone maybe like 30 minutes ago, and we had to rush off because we always have such incredible conversations. But you were breaking down the history of Puerto Rico. I definitely, since this is part of your question here, right? Tell us about, leaning into your next question, tell us about your immigration experience from PR and what that looked like for your family. You were talking about how in the 40s, it was a really big time for the people of Puerto Rico to migrate into New York and also in the city of Chicago. Tell us a little bit about that, because I feel like that's such rich history that the people need to know. We got some young folks in here. I was learning. I'm like, look, y'all, she could teach a class on Puerto Rican history, and I am here for it.
Thank you. Thank you,
Right?
Sophia.
Right? Because even though the island is a commonwealth, yes, we had talked about how there are similar immigration or migration experiences and narratives that the Puerto Rican community experienced, even though they were considered American citizens. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I came here when I was a year old, so I was raised here. But I do remember going back a little bit, as far as I can remember, when my parents, when we came here, we moved what today is known as the South Side. That's
Okay.
where
Outside of Chicago.
the South Side of Chicago. We lived there till about maybe to the age of 7 or 8. And I remember living in a very diverse neighborhood when I was, like 5, 6, 7, when I was going to elementary school. We had Hispanics, we had Caucasians, whites, and we had African Americans, and we were all in this community. And of course, when you have all these different groups together back then, it was it was a very difficult time, right?
Mm,
There was a lot of racism at that time because
mm.
they didn't like Puerto Ricans. For some reason, we weren't welcome or liked very much. I remember being chased home many times
Wow.
from school when I remember clearly being we used to get chased home for and I remember my dad working in a factory during the time that my dad came, and many Puerto Ricans migrated to the United States. The economic landscape in Puerto Rico was shifting from an agricultural to more of an economic industrial type island, and so a lot of the people that work in agriculture who used to work in the sugarcane fields, like my dad worked in the sugar. That's how he survived, and that's how he put food on our table. working in the
Mm.
sugarcane fields. So when they started to move into more from that agricultural to more of an industrial economy, a lot of Puerto Ricans started to migrate, and most of them migrated to New York. If you look at Manhattan and if you look at Brooklyn, I mean, that's like ahí está una isla, there's little
Sí,
Puerto
sí, sí.
Rico. And then we
Oh, the
started moving
Puerto Ricans,
to,
¿verdad?
yeah,
The
yeah,
New Ricans.
that's where the Neo-Ricans come from,
Okay.
or the word, I should say. But, and then we started migrating to different parts of the country. And a lot of them came to Chicago, and we were that group of people from the island. They came to the city of Chicago to live and to how can you say this, to seeking that dream, right, of a better life, like everyone else who's a migrant or an immigrant coming into this country.
I love that, and that's so powerful. We have Art, my brother-in-law, that you affectionately call Arthur.
Sorry, Arthur.
Arthur Arturo, Ricans from the island, Mama Aida, and I share that. He is very Boricua. He's from La Isla, very, very Puerto Rican, and we love that we share that in common. Yes, very strong Puerto Rican pride here um,
Amen.
in this space. Very
Yes.
strong Puerto Rican pride. We have Eva Sage joining us today. That's Mommy's granddaughter and my beautiful niece. So excited for this. And look at your bestie showed up, Mommy. Mira, Anna LaBoy said, "You go, girl. You go, girl." But listen, tell us about, like the school system back then, right? Because we are talking bilingual education, and you were considered an ELL student. Okay.
Yes.
You were
Yes.
considered, right? Because you came from the island and you didn't speak casi ni papa de inglés, no?
That's correct. Yes. Yes. So what we find, if you look back at the trajectory of Hispanics coming from the island into the United States and cities, big cities, metropolitan cities like Chicago, and you come into a school system that is predominantly white, of course, no support system for anybody that's bilingual, right, or doesn't speak English. And so, my experience in the school system, one of them that I clearly remember that I shared with you earlier, and I'll share it with the audience, was that I would remember that I might have been like in fifth grade, sixth grade, and I remember being pulled out of the classroom, and I was taken to another room. And so the way they would handle those that did not speak English was, students that didn't speak English, was that they would pull them out like once a week, or maybe twice a week, I can't remember, but they would pull them out and they would bring them to another room, and it was called, quote unquote, the English teacher, and she would teach them English. And I remember being pulled out. And I remember that clear. Those are experiences in our lives where we remember them because they had an impact in our lives, right? And so, and in our identity, right, in our culture, and who we were as a student and as a people. And I remember she pulled me in the room and she started to speak to me in English. And so I responded to her in English. And she goes, "Well, you speak English." And I go, "Yes, I speak English." And the reason I spoke English was because when I came here, the emphasis was, it wasn't on, keep your Spanish culture, keep your language, keep your customs, your traditions that are part of you as a human being. No, it was, forget your language. Spanish
Right.
doesn't matter. We don't use it here anyway. It's of no value. It has no
Right.
value. You have to learn to speak English. English is where it's going to take you. It's going to take you places. And by and far, there's some, how can I say it? There's a grain of truth to that. Obviously, we
Sure.
do live in a country where the main primary language is English. And no matter where you go, what job or education, wherever you go, you have to know the language in order to move forward in any
Mhm.
capacity, right? Or,
Yeah.
and so she says, "Oh, you speak English?" Oh, I go, "Yeah, I speak English." So she took me back to the classroom, and I remember I was never pulled from the classroom again. But my thought process at that time as a young girl, Puerto Rican, coming from the island, my parents didn't speak English at all.
Wow.
Uh, um, and we were
Literally.
all obviously we didn't speak English. My mom, the only English we knew was, or maybe what we heard from the cartoons or from TV.
Wow.
Even our neighbors were Spanish speaking, and if there were other ethnic groups, we wouldn't speak to them because we didn't know how to speak English. So we wouldn't communicate or hang out with them, if you will. We would only hang out with the Spanish kids because we spoke the same language. So my emphasis at that time in terms of schooling was, Ida, you need to learn to speak English and you need to learn it very well.
Wow.
And that's what I did. I
Mhm.
did. I immersed myself in the English language, forgot totally about the Spanish. And it's no, I got to learn English and I got to learn it well. And,
Wow.
and I believe I did. I believe I accomplished that goal
Absolutely.
where I was able to, go to school, be good in school. I got good grades in school. But we're talking about bilingual education, and we might be talking about gaps in achievement and gaps in recognizing the abilities of students and their skills. And I remember, and I shared that with you earlier, excuse me, where I was a good student in school, and because I love school. I love
Will
learning. I
do.
love learning. I am, you can call me a lifelong learner.
Yes, you
I
are.
mean, because my motto is there's so much to learn and there's so little time. There is
Mhm.
so much to learn
I love that.
and there's so little time. I mean, we just don't have enough time to learn everything we want to learn. And so I immerse myself in learning. And I remember be very good in school. I remember getting A's. I remember I was sharing with you earlier that I remember being I was very good in grammar because I'm a reader. I love to read. I am what they call those bookworms. You know
Mhm.
me. I love to read. Well, you know what I packed in my bag when we went to Lake Geneva, right?
A book. Your textbook, because you're in graduate school.
I was reading while everybody was in the pool. I just love it. I mean, that's like my lifeline. I just love it. It just fills me. It just fills me. And I remember, and now in retrospect, going back in time, which you never do until this opportunity came up to be in your podcast, where I had to go back in time and think about certain monumental moments in my education and in my personal life and my experiences. And I remember that. You know what? I never got recognition for it.
No recognition. No.
I don't ever remember getting a certificate. I don't ever remember some teacher patted me on the shoulder and saying, you know what, Ida, good job, good job. Like, hey, you did well. I remember winning vocabulary contests, like word contests. Like I would be in all the contests because I was really good in grammar. Like I said, I immersed myself in the
Still
English
are.
language,
Yeah.
and I said, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be like, I got this,
Mhm.
and I was. But you know what? Now that I think about it, I never got any recognition. Like I was sharing with you, they never sent home a note to my parents, like saying, "Hey,
Right.
this is a good student. Like your
Right.
student is like the bomb here." Like
Right.
never. And my parents never received any
Mm.
type that I was doing very well, that I
Right.
was doing very well in school. And of course, my parents didn't speak English at all. My
Sure.
my mom and dad didn't know a lick of English. So
And, like, didn't you say that grandma would sign her name with an X?
my mother was illiterate.
Mm,
My
fun.
mother never had an opportunity to go to school.
Wow.
My dad went to probably third grade, but
Wow.
my mom never went to school, so she signed with an X.
Oh my
So
gosh. And when you told me that, I don't know why I got so emotional. I'm like, Dios mío, why didn't she have fair access to education? Why didn't she have an opportunity? But going back to what you're saying, there was no recognition, right?
no,
Because you're possibly, and again, these are those subtle but yet loud
very
strings
loud.
of like, systemic racism that many of our students have experienced. And you said a story that again I take with me in so many spaces because I am an advocate And you know where I'm going with this. You were like my daughter's age, 7, 8 years old, walking down the hallway with your classmate, speaking Spanish, and a teacher comes up to you saying, "We speak English here."
That's right. That's right.
We
And
speak English here very
yeah,
like aggressively. And to me, like that really speaks to some of the, some of the disparities, right? Some of the, social injustices that are going on in our school system. Like, why even in the right mind would an individual, would an adult say that? Especially you're in a hallway, right? You're talking casually with your friend. But again, it's a picture, right? It's a demonstration of how the language was viewed, of how our culturas were viewed in a school setting,
yes.
in the 50s and 60s. And a lot of that, obviously, we were talking about, like, you can't just be straight blunt racist up in people's faces. However, the microaggressions are still there. The implicit biases are still there. And we need to continue to acknowledge that the system is still broken.
Oh
And there
yeah.
are so many students of color that are suffering because the system is working against them and not for them. And their cultural landscape should be celebrated and amplified and not suppressed and left at the door. Don't get me started. See, I'm getting fired up. I'm going to pause and breathe, mama, because you know I get fired up. You got your bestie talking about Ada. You're the best teacher anyone can have. I was your student.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
So
Testify, let the people know my mom's a Bible teacher. She is a classroom teacher. She is a teacher of life. She teaches me every day, and she is a jewel and a gem. Man, but let's just go deeper. Let's just go even further into your journey. Listen, I consider you, look it, I'm already like super passionate because you're like one of my favorite persons in the world. You're like one of my favorite persons in the entire planet. So how can I not be bursting out of my skin for you? I'm just so proud of you. Like, listen, you came out of retirement, and I say this line too, and I know you hear me say it all the time. I don't even
yeah,
care. Okay, you were a federal aviation administration employee for over 20 years, and
yeah,
you ended up doing some civil rights work, investigation, like with looking at discriminatory practices. I am my mother's daughter. Yes, I am. Okay, another justice warrior right here. But you had this love for education, right? And you came out of retirement and you were so responsive to a need that we had. And I'm wondering, and tell the people, like, entering into the classroom, specifically the bilingual education classroom, the dual language classroom, right, for the newcomers. And we'll talk about the newcomers because you've been very proximate to the newcomers that have come from different countries, and that is a very special place that you've been in. And I want the people to hear and to know. But what caused you to like have this desire to not only get into education, and now we are both educators, educated Latinas,
that's right.
we talk shop, we talk changing the state of education over Thanksgiving dinner. Don't play with us, please
Yeah.
don't. Please don't. I know Tiffany's here and is like, oh my gosh, like we have to remember when we have dinner with Tiffany. Okay, let's talk with Tiffany because me and mommy, we be like, let's change the world, boo. Let's change the world. Let's change policy. Let's get in there. But okay, I'm pulling back. Talk to us about your journey to the classroom. I got emoji star in my eyes. And
Yeah. So yeah. So it's like I mentioned before. I love education. I love reading. I love to write. I love to research. I love to learn. I mean, like I said, I'm like a sponge. I'm like a little kid. I just take it all in, like, because everything is wonderful. Everything is amazing. It's like new information. It's like it opens up new worlds, new windows of opportunities. And so when I moved, Educated Latinas, yes. Este, when I moved, I used to live in Bensonville and we lived there for over 14 years. And then I moved over here to Addison. And I wanted to come out of retirement because, of course, I wasn't doing anything. And I'm thinking, what should I do? What kind of job should I get? And because I didn't want to work full time, like, and I didn't want to work summers. I wanted my free summers. So where's the best place to? She's really with a lot of wisdom. Oh,
comments coming in, everybody. For those just listening, and Sister Tiff, she really is a woman filled with a lot of wisdom.
Oh. And so as I was thinking, like, where do I go from here? What do I do with my life, with the rest of my life, that the Lord gives me? And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go work in a school. I'm gonna work in a school because I love education anyway. When I go to a library, I love the feel, the smell, and everything of books. I mean, new
You,
books, they just
I love you.
they just call me, they entice me. I try to read every title, and even just the titles teach me, like I learned just from reading titles in a library.
Yes, queen.
Yes, but so then I thought, so I went over here. There's one of the things of this home that we bought is that there's schools all around us, elementary schools. There's a middle school, and there's the junior high, which is a middle school, and then the high school. So there's schools all over here. So I decided to apply, and of course I don't, I've never taught in public school, right?
Sure.
So I don't have a license. I don't have anything. I don't have any certifications to show that I can teach in a public school, right? So I applied and I was hired as a bilingual paraprofessional, which is
Wow.
which is like a teacher's assistant,
Sure.
actually. And I ended up in a dual language classroom in kindergarten. And I was just roared. I just loved it. I felt like this is where I belong. Like I loved, like the teacher would allow me to do some segments of the teaching with the students, and I was just enamored. I fell in love, and I fell in love with my students. I
Yes.
wanted to bring them all home. They were from kindergarten, and I
Yes.
just loved them. And the fact that the curriculum was in Spanish, well, the model was 80-20, which means that they're 80% Spanish and 20% English. And then it
Correct.
starts to it starts to go down. And then it's 70% and
Sure.
then 30 and so forth
That's
until
the dual language model.
that's the language model. And then the dual language, which is an amazing, some genius thought of it, because at the end of the day, these students are fluent biculturally.
Both.
They're fluent
Right.
in two
Culture.
languages. They can
Yes.
speak very well in English, and they can speak very well in Spanish. And wow, what a gift! What a gift to be able to learn simultaneously these
Yes.
two languages. It's just wonderful. But at any rate, and so I loved it. And so I asked the teacher. I said, I want to be a teacher. I
Come on,
want to be a
girl.
teacher in a public school.
Come.
You know what? I want to do what you do. I want
That's
to be, I want to be a dual language teacher. And she goes, well, do you have a license? Do you? And I go, no, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. She goes, but you know what? She goes, there's a program with the state where you can go take an exam. And if you pass that exam, it's in Spanish and it's in English. So they test you in both languages. And if you pass that exam, they will give you what might be called a transitional license. That means that I'm approved to teach in a bilingual classroom as long as it's bilingual. I can teach in a bilingual classroom. And I go, yeah, well, how do I go about it? And she explained it to me, and I went about it. Paid the fee. You got to register. This whole thing about taking a state exam. But to make a long story short, of course, I aced it out, and I got my license.
She said, I aced it. Just don't worry.
I
I,
got yeah, English and Spanish, and I aced it. I said, wow, I got my license. I can teach. I can go and apply.
let's
I
go,
can teach.
queen.
And so I did, and I applied to the Aurora School District to which I teach like a grown up, strong dedication. So
Mom loves to read, so she's literally reading the captions. I'm
I
just putting
am
them out there. I'm waiting for you to pause, and then I was going to share them, but you're so
okay.
adorable.
Go ahead,
And
because
you like
I
to
can't
read.
stop. It's like if it's in front of me,
Yes.
audience. If it's in
Are you
front of me,
doing
I
this?
have to read it. I mean, I read the obituaries. I read
Okay, then read this comment from our girlfriend.
Truly wish I had teachers like you growing up. Strong dedication and changing the education system. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
that's our girl,
Yes.
Fernanda, who is a family friend that we love dearly.
Yes.
But you're just jumping right in. Like, this is a career change for you. You were
Yes.
fired. You did not have to do this.
No,
Uh, not
not
at
at
all.
all. Not at all. I could
Not at
stay
all.
home. And I could just stay home for the next, whatever time the Lord gives me, and just vegetate and, just stay home and do my thing. But no, I still have a passion for, for teaching, and to be out there, be out there with the, with the leaders, and, and the ones, the change agents, and the ones that want to, make a difference. I want to be out there with them.
Let's
I,
go. Well, you and me, baby. So we changing things. Come
you
on.
know,
Little
I
by
want,
little, amplifying voices, sharing the narratives, traveling the country together.
amen.
Right?
Yes.
And,
And so, yeah, yeah. And so I got a job, my first real teaching job. I met my goal. I became a dual language kindergarten teacher in Aurora.
I
I
love
got the job. I got the job. I applied for it and I got it. But that was 2019, pardon. That's when COVID came.
that's when
And so
COVID.
we had to do it remote. And so we did it remote. And then I left Aurora because it was a little too far for me.
Mm.
And then I came here to Bensonville, and I've been there for 2 years. I was hired as a bilingual teacher. Remote, I did remote, and then when the school stopped doing remote and in person student instruction. They put me as I'm actually today I am a bilingual math specialist. I do intervention for newcomers
Let's go. Tell
and
us
for
about
students
that.
that don't speak English
Okay.
and that are behind in math. So I'm an interventionist. I don't know if everyone might be aware of how the school system, how they have three tiers. There's tier one, tier two, and tier three. Tier one is the teacher in the classroom giving instruction to the student, and the student, flowing through with the material or the instruction. Tier two is when some students start to struggle a little bit with the instruction. And so the teacher still breaks them into small groups and gives the instruction to specific students based on their level. And then tier three is the highest level of intervention in the school system in terms of a content area. So mine was math. That's what I was assigned to as a math specialist. And so the tier three students are really below. They're either a year or two or maybe even three behind. So I'm an interventionist for newcomers. Most of them in the Bensonville School District are coming from Guatemala.
Guatemala.
Yes, we have quite a large group of students from Guatemala, and from kindergarten to fifth grade, which is the elementary schools where I work. And so I teach. I'm an interventionist in math with first graders, with kindergartens, with third graders, fourth graders,
Wow.
fifth graders. So I run from kindergarten to fifth grade. I am the bilingual interventionist in that school. I'm the only one.
Wow.
They finally made that position open because of the need.
Because of the
There's
need.
there's such a big need to give instruction to these students that are coming in from other countries, and they don't speak English. So
They don't speak like ni papa
nothing.
English, no
No,
English.
they don't speak a lick of English, like they
So they
said.
don't speak a lick of English. They're in the state of Illinois, right? This is in your context, in the Chicagoland area. And tell us about that. Tell us about that whole process of what happens and what myths can you debunk and what resources, love, and affection do these newcomers really need from us as a school system?
Well, one of the things, like I work with these students, and of course, I love my students. I mean, like
Oh,
I see my students as students that come with traumas. These students
mm,
they're coming from other countries.
let's talk about it.
They're coming with traumas, and they're so you're gonna try and fuse or help bring that together, bring that instruction, and alleviate that trauma for those students.
Mm.
And it's not easy. It's very complex, right? Because I mean, what can a teacher give a student that's coming into the school system, into your classroom with
Mm.
already, it's you haven't even taught this student and they're already with trauma.
Wow.
Their behavior, they're 2-3 years behind, and they don't speak the language. I mean, they've already got,
Right.
5 strikes against them. as soon as they walk into the classroom. So as a teacher, your responsibility is, man, to just love on them,
Mm.
just love on these
Love
students. Just,
relationships.
yeah, just establish relationship with these students, and know that, if they're behaving like the way they shouldn't be, bad behavior, don't take it personal. It's
Yeah.
not about you. Don't take it personal. It's
Mm.
about that student and their experience
Wow.
in their lives. And these are young students. We're talking third graders. I have students that their parents are still in Guatemala, and these students are here with our uncle and aunt. They're with the grandmother. I mean, that alone, not being with their parents is trauma for them.
Yeah.
So I I embrace, you gotta embrace those students, man.
Mm.
You gotta embrace them, and have a lot of empathy, a
Mm.
lot of empathy. Know that they're in a hard place right now,
Wow.
and you as a teacher can make a difference. You can
Come
make a
on.
big difference.
Come on.
You can make a big difference in that student's life, and I've seen it happen in with my students. I saw it happen with my students because, and I don't want to brag about this, but I made sure that my students got what they needed,
Mm.
not only emotionally, like, showing them that they belong, that they're loved, that, we're going to help them, through this trauma that they're in, and we're going to help them with this language barrier that they have.
Mm.
And and we're here to help them. But I also, like resources, like a lot of these students don't have books, they don't have notebooks, they don't have pencils, pens, markers, they don't have. I emptied out. Oh, I hope my principal's not hearing me. I emptied out all the school cabinets. I gave it to the students. I emptied them out. I gave them all to the students. You froze for a
Mm.
second. Yeah, I gave it all to the students. I gave all this. I gave all the supplies out before the end of the year. I sent an email to the teachers, and I said, "Can you have your my students that I work with math? I said, can you have your student come into the office, to my room, for about 2 minutes, 5 minutes? It's all." And they would be coming in. They would be rotating. They would be coming in. And mira, aquí, notebooks, box of markers. Here, all this, you take it home. So when the school year starts again in August, you have your supplies, um, pencil boxes. I gave them so much stuff. And I felt good about it, because I know they won't ask for it, and I
Right.
know that a lot of these parents are, in these families that are here, they're very low income. Their income is very minimal.
Yeah.
So us as teachers, if we have resources at the school, like, I know of other teachers that have their cabinets are full of supplies. What are you doing?
Give them away.
Give them away. Give
Give
it to
give them
the
away.
students. I had one teacher tell me, "Oh, I got a my cabinet is full of supplies," and I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, "Why are you not giving it to the students? Why hold? Maybe when they need it. I don't know."
Right.
No, no, no. You got to embrace these immigrants. You got to love on them. You got to show them that you care about them, and you got to be empathetic. They come in with traumas,
Yeah.
and students that are like 2, 3 years behind. I had fifth graders. I had three fifth graders all from Guatemala. I was teaching them third grade math.
Wow.
Third grade math.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a real issue. You know, to debunk that myth that maybe they don't care, that they're not good learners, that they're lazy, that they just don't want to learn, that they checked out. You might think all those things, but if you build a relationship with those students, you're going to get to know that that's not it.
That's not it.
That's not it.
In many instances, if not most instances, that is not it.
That is not it. That is not it. And so it is our responsibility as teachers, especially bilingual teachers working with these migrant or immigrant children, students, to really, really show them that, hey, you're here. I'm with you. I'm gonna
and you
hold your hand.
belong.
I'm gonna hold your hand. I'm gonna mentor you. I'm gonna help you in any way you can.
Here's another comment for you, mommy. Go ahead and read it.
Yeah, I can't see anything in front of me because I have to read it. Learning a new language, living in a new country, plus trying to keep up academically. They're going through so much. What a gift that they have a caring and devoted teacher like you.
That's from Miss Eunice, my sister in love. And it's true. And I think that you just really delivered so many revelations that would seem simplistic, but but are often overlooked when dealing with the student population, like our multilingual learners, our English language learners, our newcomers, is that relationship piece and
Yes.
really connecting with your students. And like you say, debunking those misconceptions and those are biases, right? Those are assumptions that many stakeholders make in the world of education. And Latina advocates and educators of multilingual learners, because I have them on my roster as well. As many of you know, I am going back to get my ELL endorsement because, as an activist, as an educator, as a woman of color, a teacher of color, the cultural landscape, their cultural identity will not be erased, will not be put to the side, and it's not either or, but it's and both. Hello. And just really building that relationship, because these are not just names on our rosters. These are humans that
Mhm.
come with a collection of experiences that most
Yes.
adults cannot handle, and
Yes.
and we're going to expect them to work rigorously in another language. So what's happening in the mind of a multilingual learner, so we could even talk like what happens in the brain, is language learning and content comprehension, and we're asking them to circumnavigate through that one at a time, but it actually happens at the same time, right? Like,
Yeah.
and really giving a student the space and the place to be their authentic selves. Let's pivot. Let's talk about the power of representation. Studies show and prove that the more diverse the teacher workforce in front of diverse students, the more likely they are to succeed academically. The more likely, I mean, the research is out of this world, mommy, and you've read it too.
Mhm.
They are more likely, 2 to 3 times more likely to not only graduate high school, but move on post secondary into the college realm or a trade. And listen to the power of this, all because they had teachers in front of them that looked like them. We've talked about this. I didn't
Mhm.
have a teacher of color in front of me until college. And just the racism that I experienced as a Latina student in a predominantly white school, and what that did to me, and how that really affected me. But we all know that sometimes these instances can be seeds that can be planted. See, my experience with racism only fanned the flame. My lack of diversity among my teachers that I experienced only created an opportunity for me to one day advocate for the contrary. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Sure.
how powerful is it that you're with your newcomers and you have that beautiful brown skin, that you can speak Spanish at the drop of a hat, that you allow them to speak Spanglish and trans language, don't you? Don't you?
Absolutely.
You allow
Absolutely.
them to code switch. You allow them, and that's what I do, and that's how I learned, right? Um, as we learn a different language, we combine our strongest one with the weakest one, and sometimes there isn't a safe space created for that. So, talk to us about the power of representation and what that has meant to your students and families.
Well, when I was growing up, I never had a Hispanic teacher. I mean, not even through grade school, not even through high school. So when you look at that, when you go back and think about it, because you don't see a Latina or a Latino teaching you in the classroom, you never you never think that perhaps you could also be a teacher in the
Yeah.
classroom. That never enters your mind. It doesn't become it's not a conscious thing. Because they're the teacher, they're the experts, and you always, back in when I was going back to school, teachers were very highly valued and looked at like they're the experts. They know it all, and there's no argument about that. And so I never thought of myself as a teacher, never.
Oh,
Even though, like I was sharing with you earlier, I was teaching all along the way. Like I was teaching because I remember, even with my siblings, I used to help them with their homework.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I used to help my siblings with their homework, with their math, with their English, whatever it was. I used to help them. I used to help them with their reading. Of course, if they asked, a lot of them didn't ask, but if they asked, I would help them. And so
You
you
were
would
the family translator too, weren't you?
yeah, and that's another thing that I was sharing with Sophia is that I remember when growing up, I might have been like 11 or 12, and my dad got injured at the job, and he we ended up on public aid. We ended up on public aid, and so I was my dad's translator. Like if my dad needed to go to the public aid office, I remember going with him. Um, I remember going him to the light, at that time, everything now is technology. It's all technology driven. So, everything is on the internet. But at that time, if you had a problem, an issue with your bill, like with your water bill or your electric bill, whatever it was, or your heating bill, you would have to go into the office. You would have to go to the comment office or wherever, and hash it out. And I remember going with my dad. I remember going to the light company, go to the gas company, and whatever he would need, assistance, he would ask me to go with him. And uh, of course, I would go with him. But when you look, so then I went to high school, graduated from high school, um, got my bachelor's degree at night because I was working with the Federal Aviation Administration. At that time, I was married, I had kids. And so I went to school at night. I went to DePaul University at night, 2 courses at night, and graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology. And then I wanted to continue. And my goal was not to be a teacher. My goal was to be a trainer at the FAA when I got the
Right.
job, to
Mhm.
be a trainer in the human resources division. And so I went to Northeastern to and they had a training and development program, and so it was a master's program, and so I I was admitted to the program. I was going through the program, and that was the goal. That's where I was going to go. I was going to be a trainer. I was
Wow.
going to train employees, because I saw how they were doing it, and I loved it. And so, but at that time, I am a woman of faith. I believe in God. I believe that God continues to intervene in the affairs of men.
Mhm.
And when I say men, I mean humanity. Um, and so I started going to church, and before I knew it, God put in my heart that I should go to seminary school. And so my passion was to learn more about who God was, His character, and so on. And so I left the program, and I went into the seminary. I went to seminary school, and I graduated with a master's degree in biblical studies. Um, and then I decided, well, let me go continue and do another master's. And I remember when I was going to Northeastern, I had one professor who was a Latino. His name was Dr. Betances. He was a doctor. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, he was awesome. I could just see him. He moved around the room. He knew he was so energetic. He was so knowledgeable. He has so much energy, charisma,
Wow.
Dr. Betances. And he was my first. He was my first Hispanic. And actually, now that I'm in a master's program in elementary education, I had a Miss Gonzalez uh, teacher or professor, I should say. So
Wow.
it is definitely important because it gives the student it opens up that window of possibilities for the
Yes.
student.
Yes.
That
Mirrors and windows. Yes.
yes, it opens up. It like, hey, Miss Gonzalez here is a teacher, and she's teaching me. I'm her student. You know what? One day I could be a teacher too.
One
But if
day.
all you see is other colors, other faces, and then you're thinking, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. That never elevates to your conscious level. where
Mm,
you might think that that those are possibilities in your life,
mm.
or that could be your career in your life. Yeah.
Wow. And, with that being said, right, the power of representation, not only does it have positive outcomes, but like you say, it creates possibilities in the mind of the student. And not only that, right, but it also benefits all students. To have a diverse teacher workforce in K through 12 and also post secondary, man, that creates opportunities for cultural acceptance, for breaking down any misconceptions about a culture, mutual understanding,
Yeah.
just being ready for our society that is very global, that is very diverse, that is very colorful. And when you create opportunities for students to engage different cultures and different mindsets and cultural landscapes, that can only benefit. And what's further, when you see someone in front of you that looks like you, that understands you. I take great pride in speaking Spanglish with my Spanish speaking students, and when they say, hey man, I really would have done better with this essay prompt if I would have just jotted my ideas down in Spanish first. And I'm like, well, why didn't you? And they're like, I don't know, it's just not, I didn't think that it would be okay. And just for teachers like you and I to make it okay, to create a safe space
Yeah.
for students. And also, doesn't that liberate us as teachers? Man, I feel so liberated when I
Yeah.
could share my culture with
Yeah.
my students, and being a Mexican and having the big old flags in my classroom, hablando en español, talking
I
about
love
my
it.
gandules that I have perfected, and like all of the different, stories that I have, and allowing my students to share their stories of,
Mhm.
pain and suffering, but also of resilience and triumph, right?
Mhm.
Changing that narrative and really allowing for our students to see that unravel before them. I think that you raised such a good point there.
I was going to make a comment that
Sure.
that I really when you come into a classroom as a teacher and your students are they speak your language, and like you say, it's like a kindred spirit,
Yeah,
like
man.
like
Yes.
it's family, like it's
Yes.
automatically when you come
Yes.
into that classroom and you see all those little brown faces, and
Yes.
they're all eager, to learn and to grow,
Chulería.
and some of them are smiling. I remember in
Yes.
kindergarten some of them were crying because this is their first experience into the the school, that they've always been at home. And I remember students, my little students, crying, and they're in kindergarten, and I would look at them and I would say, this is family. These are, they're like my kids,
Yeah,
the
nosotros
kindred
también.
spirit, like I understand. I know why you're crying. Like I get it. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, and, like, don't you see yourself in them? I know you came from
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, again, which is considered a commonwealth, but don't you see yourself in them?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. 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 And these students are, one of the things that one of the characteristics that I've identify in whether it's a newcomer or but they don't speak English, English is a second language, is their humility.
Mm,
My students, and maybe it's just my students, but my students, my Latino students, are so humble.
qué lindos.
Even though they come in with trauma, their life is a hot mess, if you will, but they are so humble. They're so humble, and they're just ready to learn. And I
They're
just love that. I just love that.
I love that. I just am so grateful for you, and like many have said in this space, your students are just so blessed to have you. My last question for you, and then um, we'll play with a few little pieces that I always have fun at the end. What is your vision for the future professionally? Where do you want to go? You're in graduate school. You've had your experiences thus far. Like, where do you want to take this, mommy?
I want to be a language arts teacher. I want to teach Spanish either in middle school or in high school. I want to be a
Okay.
Spanish teacher, either in middle school, wherever the opportunity comes. But that's my next goal. I would love, I love, I've Spanish is such a valuable language, and I think that when you obviously when you're teaching students in their language,
Yes.
I suspect that they would learn more, and they're more engaged in the process,
Yes.
right? In the
Yes.
process of instruction, if you're doing it in their language. And so I already see myself in the classroom just teaching la maestra de español.
La maestra de español, vamos a seguir adelante con eso. Let's go forward with that. We believe that for you. And again, right, the bilingual educator, and just having a teacher that's culturally sensitive benefits students from all cultures,
Yes.
right? Like, I mean, it's just such a powerful thing. All different cultures can benefit from someone that is in front of them, that is culturally sensitive, that has that mutual understanding, that seeks to understand versus assume. So we love your vision. Just ending here, like, I'm just, this is how far back we go. Adding this to the stream here.
Oh,
um,
Jesus.
this is how far back we go. For those who are watching online, this is the day that the world changed, because it was the day that I came into this world. Just kidding.
You
But look at
silly.
this, July 26, 1978. I'm thinking it was early morning. Um, this is me and mommy, and definitely taking a screenshot on that. But I just wanted to brag on the fact that you look so radiant. Honestly, every time, like, when I gave birth to both of my children, they were all just like, do you still need help? Because I look like I was in some critical condition. You over here looking so beautiful. And I just wanted to share that with the audience. One more picture here of you and I just recently in KC, Kansas City. And just a demonstration of your support. I definitely wanted to end by lifting you up and amplifying your incredible mothering, and how you have been very supportive of my journey of EDU justice and equity, and how hard it's been, and my speaking journey. And you have been right by my side. And I'll tell you, I definitely wouldn't have gotten this far without your support, without being a sounding board. Y'all, any article that I send her, she reads it. Any letter that I need her to look over for my applications, she reads it. And so I can guarantee that she will be there. You were there in DC when I won Educator of the Year, and have followed me whenever you could, when I would give keynote presentations. And that there's something to be said about that. And I wanted to honor you in this space, and I wanted to thank you publicly for being my champion, for being my guide on the side, and treating me like I'm sure you treat your school babies, with that love, with that support. Like, girl, what you need, let's see what we got to do, because we got to get you to Washington. Okay, we got to get you at the table. That's what my mom tells me, y'all. That's why I'm so bold and brave. My mama be putting in my ear, we got to get you to the table. And if you ain't got a seat, we're going to get you a folding chair. You belong at the table, mama. You belong at the table. And I'm going to let all the listeners know how mommy be gassing me up and gives me courage.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think that that's part of the work, right? Because you're a Latina, you're an advocate, you love our nation's kids. You need to be where you need to be, and I'm going to help you get there. She reviews my applications, and y'all know there are many. Okay. She reviews my letters of introductions. She does it all. And she's like, we're getting you there. No, you will apply and I will help you. And guess what? She has really helped me to get into many spaces where I could really provoke change. And so for that, I thank you. And we got Fernanda talking about that's on period. Okay. That's on period. All right. That's how amazing and awesome you are. And so let's go into some fill in the blanks here. Okay. We're closing up shop here, nearing the end. I need you to fill in these blanks for me. Okay. What I'm most looking forward to this summer is.
I'm looking forward to just relaxing and spending time with my husband Rick, and with my my children and my grandchildren, with David, with Sophia, with Nathaniel, with Tiffany, and with my grandchildren. And that's what I want. That's what I love the most. I would like to spend time with my children and my grandchildren.
Yeah, I
I
love it.
really, like you say, I really honor that space, and I really long for that space.
I love it. Mother and grandmother. And whenever you want to pick up my daughter Jen, she be all about your life. Just so you know, my daughter and my mom are two besties, two peas in a pod. Those two are inseparable. It's adorable. What teachers need right now is
I think what teachers need right now is to know that not only the student matters, and pouring it into love into the student, and that empathy and that love to the student, but also that they matter. You
mm,
know, a teacher matters. A teacher is cultivating the minds of the next generation of teachers and lawyers and doctors and presidents and what have you.
we're important.
Yeah, very. You play a critical role in the lives of these students in their future. You you plant those seeds for their future, and you
Come on.
want those seeds to grow and flourish in whatever area they're gonna go in, whatever pathway they go. But you are very important in the classroom, and you're a role model. I mean, you think you are looking at the students. Well, guess what? The students are looking at you.
They're looking at you.
They're looking at you too. You are evaluating your students. Guess what? Your students are evaluating you.
I love it.
And they're looking, does she care? How does she feel about me?
That's
Is
right.
she inclusive? Does she treat me with fairness?
Yes.
They're looking at all. They're not obsolete. They're not out there by themselves.
I love that. I want my students to leave my classroom every year feeling
I want my students to leave my classroom every year feeling that they belonged there, and that they had a teacher that cared for them. I really want them to leave knowing that, you know what, that I had an impact in their lives. That a podcast in 2050, that they can say, you know what, I remember my teacher Rodriguez.
Mm,
I
mm,
remember my bilingual teacher, and how she showed that she cared about me, and how she helped me with resources, and was just and it was just she cared about me. I was a student that she cared about, and that's what I want uh, to walk away with as a teacher,
I became a teacher as a second career because
because I like teaching. And because I'll be quite honest, it's a profession where you get your summers off. What other profession are you going to get your summers off?
yeah, because we work like we work the whole year through that school year. And just
Yeah,
to let everybody know, okay, our checks are set aside and are given back to us over the summer.
over the
Um,
summer,
yeah,
and of course, we know that the statistics show that teachers are underpaid and undervalued in their profession. I mean, that's a given. But as teachers, we bring to the classroom something that money cannot buy. We bring passion and
that's right.
interest and energy and love for us to teach and to help our students grow.
I love that. You've got some love in the chat, Mom. I'll bring it up quickly. Eunice giving us lots of claps. You've got your bestie. Proud of you, my bestie. And then here comes the esposo, Ricky. Love it. Ricky Rodriguez. Thank you for joining. Favorite stepdad. Um, fun part here. Okay, we are almost out of here. Thank y'all for hanging in and listening to the mother-daughter duo. But listen, not before getting to the rapid fire round. This is one of my favorite parts of the Ask an Educator Sophia Speaks, because we really get to let loose and have fun. Okay, you didn't get these, but it's either or, and you got to be rapid about it, quick. Which one
Okay.
comes to mind first? So I'll start with pastimes. Okay. Um, one or the other, right? Which one will you gravitate towards? Pastimes, shopping. I already know the answer to this. Or swimming.
Shopping.
Shopping, hands down. I mean, if anybody knows her in the space, it is definitely all about shopping. Yes, mommy loves to shop. We're here for it. Next one, reading. We already know the answer to this too, right? Or resting.
Reading.
Oh, please, because reading is your rest, right?
Yeah. Yes. Actually, that's my rest. When I read, I relax. I'm learning, but I'm also relaxing. So I
And
love to.
yeah, yeah, totally. All
Yeah.
right. How about this one? Zumba, because you work out too. Me and mommy have a lot in common. Zumba or boxing?
Boxing.
Boxing. See, you and I are on the boxing frequency. See, y'all just don't know. Like, my mom was my best friend. We got all these things in common. Don't be jealous. Don't hate. I would share my mama, but not too much, but just a little bit. Okay. Yes, boxing. That is my
Boxing.
jam.
Woo. Kickboxing.
Kickboxing. Let's go. High intensity. Burn those calories. Full body workout. Let's go. All right. Gets me all hype. Okay. Going into the food category. Okay. Acapurrias, frituras here, or empanadas.
Alcapurrias.
Acapurrias. Can you explain to the audience, for those listening in from different parts, what's an acapurria?
And alcapurria is a green plant, like a green banana. It's green banana and it's mashed, and it's almost like a tamale, if you will, if in but it's the Puerto Rican or version of it, and they fill it with meat or whatever, and then they
Excited.
fry it. It's fried, and it's very good. It's very good.
Okay. Arroz con gandules o arroz blanco.
Arroz con gandules. I mean,
Man,
that's our
let's
staple.
go. Let's go. Rice with pigeon peas, y'all. Instead of white rice, arroz blanco, trying to
Yeah, that's our
translate.
staple.
Tostones o tortillas.
Tostones.
Tostones, ¿verdad?
La isla.
La Isla del Encanto, sí, de Puerto Rico, la Isla del Encanto. Guys, when we went to Lake Geneva aside, she was looking for coquis, and the frogs were like her version of coquis, and she got like 5,000. Okay, let me tell you. We
I
need
love
to
my
go back.
cooking.
Okay, hot or cold cafecito?
Hot.
Hot, right? Yeah, I figured that much. Yeah, yeah. Okay, last one. Ensalada de papa o ensalada verde?
Ensalada de papa. Oops. She froze for a minute there.
Okay, I'm back. Are you there?
Yeah, ensalada de papa.
Ensalada de papa, right?
Hmm.
Yes. And just so everybody knows too, that translates to potato salad, and mommy's potato salad is like the bomb.com. Okay. Just so everybody knows, I'm just throwing that out there. All right, we're heading towards the end here. Let's talk justice. Uh, what the world needs first is love or compassion.
What the world needs first is love or compassion. I think compassion.
Compassion. Okay. Okay.
You need to be compassionate, and of course, compassion grows out of love. No,
Yes.
they're kind of
Absolutely.
they're kind of interconnected.
Yes.
You know,
I love that. And you've got some confirmation in the chat. Aida's ensalada de papa is fire. Okay. So you see, Eunice would agree as well. What would you want to offer the world first? Would you want to offer the world your affection or your shot? In the words of Hamilton, right? I'm not throwing away my shot, right?
wow. I would do affection.
Affection.
I would offer the world affection because I think
Mhm.
with affection, it opens up a lot of windows of other feelings, right?
Yes.
It blossoms into other feelings that we might identify, as love or caring or,
Yes.
yeah.
I love that, really just creating an opportunity, right? For people to really feel that, trying to feel that affection there. I think the world does need that. The world needs so much love, so much affection,
Yeah.
right? And we're going to be there to give it to them. Listen, we have reached the end. Mommy, I am so grateful to you to be able to jump in this space with me and be able to just share your story, which I think was so beautifully stated. We love you. We see you. We're so grateful that you inserted yourself into the world of education as a Latina educator, an advocate, and man, bilingual education,
I love it.
such a robust and hot topic that really needs some of the country's most best, empathetic, and caring, loving, affectionate educators
Yeah.
like yourself. And so we welcome you into the profession, and we are
Thank
so
you.
grateful
Thank you.
that you are here. Representation matters, and you are that for our babies. And we are very grateful here for you. We love you and we support you.
Thank you.
Thank you, mommy.
Should I go?
Hasta luego. I'll see you soon. Love you. Te quiero
Love you
mucho.
too.
Listen, what a great segment that we had with mommy. I'm just so grateful for all of you to come in and to share such a beautiful moment in time, and just to hear, right, the story of this beautiful Puerto Rican woman who has journeyed all the way from Puerto Rico to Humboldt Park, Chicago, and now nestled into the bilingual education classroom, man, where our babies really need her the most. And now for a second with Sofia Speaks. The saying rings true that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. It was an honor to interview my mama, my constant support and guide, and deaf inspo. I am my mother's daughter. It's her story and so many others that remind us that the work is collaborative, communal, and even generational. It took generations to cause significant harm. It will take generations to undo it. So, for many of us, we are up for the task. For the state of education is in dire need of it. We are up for the task to make the state of education safer and a more inclusive space, preserving the civil rights and dignity of our students every time. So, to all my EDU justice warriors and soldiers in the fight, I feel you, I see you, and I am with you. Until next time, keep shining and getting into good trouble, necessary trouble. Goodbye for now.